we're reconvening our meeting from the 21st of June. The invocation today is from Commissioner Chris Gurley, and the Pledge of Allegiance from Commissioner Bevan Foster.
Let us pray.
We didn't close our last meeting, do we?
No.
So do we need to do any of this? Because technically it's rolling over to the next meeting.
Agreed, but we're going to go, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we ask that you give us the knowledge and wisdom to make the best decisions for all citizens of Wayne County. We ask that you heal our land, that we may prosper and become the country that we once were. I ask that you keep your hand on the dear friend and strong advocate for Wayne County, Jack Howell, as he goes through these last days on earth, and comfort his family and friends during this time. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. And the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, on unfinished business, we need a motion to approve the amended agreement between the Wayne County of Wayne, and the Wayne County Board of Education for the new Fremont Elementary School. And our new county manager, Chip Crumpler, is going to bring us up on that.
Well, Mr. Neal, you want to go over this for them since you prepared it? It's basically an agreement that's updated between us and the school system, and he'll go over the details just in the dollar amounts.
Good morning. If you recall, several years ago, under the old needs-based grant formula, we were to provide a larger match, and it was going to be a smaller grant than what we originally came up with. During the 2021 state budget, the conditions of the needs-based grant were amended, whereby we would not forfeit future lottery funds, and we were going to receive $24 million with a $1.5 million match from the county. So originally, we were going to bring that to you today to update that funding agreement because the terms have changed. As you saw, the governor signed the budget adjustment for fiscal year 2022. He actually just signed that yesterday. A good surprise for Wayne County is that there was an additional $6 million for the Fremont Elementary School project. So that brings the total grant up to $30 million. Now it does increase our match just a smidge. But in the large amount of things, that means we have a $30 million grant for Fremont Elementary, and we also will not be foregoing any future lottery funds. So the agreement that's in front of you today was actually updated yesterday to reflect that additional $6 million. So this is needed because if you recall, several years ago when we first contemplated this, the grant was much smaller and the match was a larger portion for the county. So that needs to be done so that we can move forward with the financing that is going to be the subject of the public hearing later today. And Davenport's here and they can go over that at the appropriate time.
Okay. Any questions on the amended agreement?
This will have to be also adopted by the Board of Education, and their attorneys have had a chance to look at it.
And I've been told they're going to call a special meeting on July 20th to approve this and also the necessary steps for the financing so we can move forward with that.
Right, because we're trying to get on the LGC's calendar for
August 2nd.
Okay, great.
So that time will work out.
All right, so I need a motion to approve if there's the amended agreement.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the amended agreement. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay. Next topic is discussion of pre-qualified contractors for the detention center project.
Yes, sir. Mr. Pratt will discuss this issue with us on our list.
So we received 3 responses back from the pre-qualified bidders last month. And after speaking with staff and Mosley has recommended that because of the time we're kind of ahead of schedule. So we do have some time to go back out and take a look at this. We are bringing to you the recommendation, at least put this out there for 3 to 4 more weeks to give us a chance to get some more responses. The concern on Mosley's part is we do need 3, a minimum of 3 based on general statute. So if something does happen and one of those 3 don't bid, then we'll be in a situation to have to go back out again. So just since we have the time, it's a good opportunity for us to go back out there and take a look at that. So.
Mr. Crumpler, do we need a motion to extend?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to extend the RFQ for the pre-qualified contractors on the detention center.
Do we need a specified time? That was one question I had. Yeah, we do need a specified time.
Mr. Chairman, I have one
Specified
question.
30
30 days.
The duration of the extending the window.
And what are you recommending on the extension?
30 days.
30 days, okay. Yes.
After you go out, you did not get 3 bids the first time, is that what you're saying?
Well, right now, we're just doing the pre-qualified bidder, so we just got responses saying, hey, they meet the minimum requirements. We only got 3. We haven't gotten to the bid
Explain
point.
what a pre-qualified bidder is.
So if you recall, I think it's been 2 months now, we went out and said you need to have, meet certain criteria. You needed to have built a jail of equal or comparable size to what we're doing now. We did remove, we kind of left it up to us for the criteria as far as if the size of the jail, how complex it is, those types of things. And then obviously if it goes too far back, then that would be a consideration. But we remember we reduced some of the criteria for it about 2 months ago. And so that's what we've done, is just kind of allow everyone to say, hey, we are interested, we do meet the criteria, and then we will meet and go over that. We have a matrix for that, and we will go through it and make sure they do meet those requirements and then bring that back to you guys.
We're just looking for additional pre-qualified contractors to ask them to submit a bid. As it stands now, if we only have 3, if one does not submit a bid, then we go back to the drawing board.
Right, just start all over basically, and that's the concern we have.
So we
That's
just
Moses'
want to,
concern.
extend the RFQ for 30 days.
How many times do you have to go out, like if you did not get the 3rd bid, and you go back out and you don't get the 3rd bid, can you accept the 2nd round? I thought you could.
Eventually, we can do that.
Yeah.
Mr. Parker, would be out of order to know what those 3 companies are?
Sure, I can give them to you. It's HG Rentals, I guess I can, right? HG Rentals, Daniels & Daniels, and Bordeaux. They all 3 responded last month.
They would just make sure that all the i's dotted and t's crossed,
Sir.
because one of those firms is notorious for not having all the paperwork right.
Right, and I will say that and I sent you guys an email, we did not score anybody, we didn't do anything, we're just gonna wait until this next 30 days. So, we're gonna wait till then.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go out additional 30 days on RFQ.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We have a public hearing scheduled for 9:15. We're at 9:10, so we're going to move on to new business. We need a motion to approve the assignment of option of purchase between Wayne County Development Alliance Incorporated and the County of Wayne for up to 118 acres. And Andrew,
Yes, sir.
excuse me, Mr. Neal, we're going to ask you to respond to this.
Good morning again. If you recall, this is in regards to the Goldsboro Business Campus, what a lot of staff has called the Bryant property. So approximately about 5 years ago, WCDA negotiated an option with the Bryant family, specifically Bryant Holdings LLC, to purchase up to 118 acres of the property out there on Paytown Road. Since that time, we received a grant from the state to develop that property. We've been working with Withers Ravenel to design and engineer that. That option expires in August, so just a few weeks away. We've been in talks with the Bryans on setting a closing date so we can move forward with that. The site layout and everything has been approved. That's actually your next action item, and Withers is here to discuss that as well. So we have bids in hand that are good, I believe, until the middle of August. So what we need to do from the county is go ahead and close on that property. Now, the option was held by WCDA, but under the contract, it's assignable to the county. WCDA took formal action on that a few weeks ago and assigned that option to the county. So now it's the county needs to, the board needs to vote to enter into the assignment that's in your packet, and also to move forward with closing. If you recall, a budget amendment was done on this several months ago in last fiscal year, so that has been reallocated over. So no budget amendment is needed at this point. We're ready to close. All we need to do is for you all to accept that assignment from WCDA and then direct staff to move forward with closing.
Okay, any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the assignment.
Make a motion that we approve the assignment option to purchase between the Wayne County Development Alliance and the County of Wayne for 118 acres.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion indicate by raising your right hand. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Still a few minutes before our public hearing, so we're moving on now to the motion to award the Goldsboro Business Campus Phase 1 contract to Fred Smith, who is going to
Speak to us about that project for the Phase 1 improvements to road infrastructure, sewer, and water.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, we're back.
Well, good.
I think we're a little bit further along in the process, thankfully. We did receive 4 bids on June 9th with Fred Smith Company as the apparent low bidder. I believe all the paperwork's in place. They're roughly speaking 10%, maybe a little bit more below the next closest bidder. We think overall that the pricing is good pricing for what's being proposed in there and the current bidding climate. So we made a recommendation to move forward, but certainly the option of this board.
All right. Then I'm going to ask some question here, Mr. Parker. If we award the contract before we actually have purchased the property, is that going to create a problem?
No, it's because it's subject to my approval.
Okay, it's subject to your approval. Okay. All right. So any questions that we have on this from anybody?
So what does this include? I've been told that they've taken out 1 or 2 of the, not approved 1 or 2 of the parcels.
Mr. Neal, I'm going to ask you on that. My understanding is that the approval from the city in regards to this particular layout, 1 or 2 of the parcels or the lots were not approved?
That's my understanding. There's a lot 17 and lot 7 on the back. I believe Mr. Crumpler has been in discussions with the city about some design issues specifically on lot 7, and we may have a workaround on that. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think we won't lose that lot like we originally thought, but we're working with the city on that to find a solution.
Okay.
Lot 17 is in Phase 2 of the stormwater plan for that project, so if you
Could not be included.
It could not be included in Phase 1. Lot 7, they excluded it because they did not have 100% pavement for the frontage of the road lot. I contacted the city back and asked them if we submitted a Phase 2 project for one lot, Lot 7 by itself, would they reconsider that? And they said they would. So.
Okay, so you think you might have a workaround?
Yes.
So it's not going to change any of the actual
Layouts.
layouts?
No, sir.
Okay.
It's just when we can plat the lot and record it.
And it wouldn't require additional construction for Phase 7. It would just a
It would,
paperwork.
would not.
It would not require additional construction. It's a paperwork
So
exercise.
there won't be any change orders?
I'm not going to say there's not going to be any change orders. Not due to adding lot 7.
Not related to Lot 7.
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think Ms. Spate might want to talk about the budget amendment associated with that too, because the motion's contingent on the budget amendment and county attorney approval.
Yeah, so it does exceed the amount of funds that we had available for this project. However, we do have some funds remaining from the 21-22 fiscal year that were specifically designated as contingency for economic development purposes. We also have some funds available in this budget year specifically designated for economic development purposes, and that should cover the shortage that we have and be able to cover this contract amount. So I just wanted to let you know that we do have the funds. We are going to have to do a budget amendment, but this motion would approve that budget amendment if you choose to do so.
What's the shortage?
It's about, what did we say, about 600,000, between $500,000 and $600,000.
About $600,000. And this bid includes water, sewer, and infrastructure. If you recall, we have an agreement with the city where they're responsible for water and sewer, and we're responsible for the remaining portion. We're in the process of working out those details with the city right now. So this budget amendment will cover everything. However, it's our expectation that the city will still cover their portion for water and sewer.
And the water and sewer portion is how much?
It's about,
Just north of 500, I think.
yeah, it's around
So
$500,000.
basically what we're short.
Correct.
What we're short on our.
More or less, approximate, yes.
Well, the city's getting 500,000 out of the state budget that was approved yesterday for economic development. Whether they're going to use it or not.
Oh, they are?
Oh, yes.
Please look into those details.
Yes, sir.
But I just want to rest assured that even though this budget amendment covers the entire contract, we're still working with the city to hold them to that agreement.
Well, I'm comfortable with it as long as there's an understanding that the city lives up to its obligation in regards to installing that cost. So the payback on our funds advanced. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
In order to move forward with the contract, we just have
I
to front
understand.
the money. So
I understand. All right. Any more questions or discussion?
Did you realize that the water and sewer goes in for anything else, right?
Yes.
Okay. I need a motion to award the Goldsboro Business Campus Phase 1 contract to Fred Smith and Company.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay,
Thank you,
good to
sir.
go. At this time, I am going to open a public hearing to receive public comments on Resolution 2022-23, a resolution regarding an installment financing agreement to finance a portion of the cost of the construction of Fremont Elementary School and certain improvements to Wayne Community College. So is there anyone that would speak?
No one signed up, so.
With that in mind, did you want to make some presentation on this, Mr. Cole?
I'm happy to.
Please do. I mean, such fine work. I definitely want to give you an opportunity to spread the good cheer.
Okay, well, I've got nowhere to go but downhill from that comment. I appreciate it. I'll be brief. I'm Ted Cole with Davenport. I believe you all have a handout from staff. I'm going to cover just a couple of slides here. And if you go to page 2 of this, the page number's in the lower right corner. We, working with your staff, put together a request for proposal for banks to fund a couple of projects. The remaining need for Fremont Elementary School, which is summarized on the left-hand side of this page. At the time, because the state budget had not yet been adopted, we were expecting that bottom of the chart, net county project funding of $13,850,000. We were expecting that was going to be about what the county needed to borrow to complete the project. Subsequent to the RFP, the state budget's been signed. As Mr. Neal said, the additional $6 million has been, I guess I'll call it, awarded. So I think we're at a point now where we can consider reducing what we need to borrow here to to fund the gap of 7.85 versus 13.85. Keep in mind, we're going to be recommending Truist Bank. They did tell us that if we borrowed the 13.85 million and the next day we needed to pay back $6 million because the grant came through, they would allow us to do that without penalty. So we've got complete flexibility, although at this stage in the process with closing in August, I would hope we would be able to confirm the $6 million is sort of in the bank, so to speak, and we can reduce the borrowing from the very beginning. That will be our goal. What's in the notice of public hearing and in the resolutions y'all will consider today is a higher number. We're only going to borrow what we need. As long as we come down, there's no problem. We just can't go above what was published. So the Fremont Elementary School, I think, will end up funding about $7.85 million through this borrowing. And we'll secure that loan with the school. And that's part of what the school board will consider, Board of Education will consider at their July 20th meeting. We also wanted to solicit funding for the county's commitment to the community college site building project, which you'll see there. We're working with some estimates. What we had expected or were targeting was a county contribution of $3 million. We talked through that at length with staff and with the local government commission in Raleigh. Ultimately, they were not comfortable allowing the county to move forward with that additional $3 million because of the project timetable. Nothing to do with your finances, nothing to do with the project itself. It's just that the pricing, the guaranteed maximum pricing, the permitting that would go with construction approval are not expected to be in hand until next spring. And as a general rule, the LGC prefers not to fund projects before pricing and permitting are in hand. And we tried a couple of different ways to talk through that with them, and they just ultimately couldn't get comfortable. So all we're borrowing for in this proposed financing is the completion funding for Fremont. Community college moves forward, just like any other projects that are on the list. We'll address the funding need for that at a later date when the project is fully designed and bid. Okay, so going forward, we're talking about just Fremont, and as I said a couple of times, just under $8 million. If you go to page 3, we did the RFP. We sent it out to a long list of banks that we send these to on a regular basis. We asked for both 15-year payback and 20-year payback, tax exempt, fixed rates. We ended up receiving proposals from 5 different banks, all of whom we know and we deal with. They may not be household names to you all or may not even have a physical presence in the county, but we deal with them all on a regular basis on these types of borrowings. Truist is maybe the name that you might recognize most quickly. That is the new name of the merged BB&T and SunTrust. They have always been very active in municipal lending. And so for the 15-year term, we received a low bid of a 293 and a high bid of a 374. Big range. That's not uncommon. There's a lot of volatility in the market right now with interest rates. I think that contributes to the wide range of interest rates. And on the 20-year, a low of the 297 and a high of the 394. The low bids in there, the 293 and the 297, we're not comparing apples to apples there. They were not fixed at the time. They were indicative rates subject to market movement until a term sheet could be signed. So they really weren't workable from the perspective of the timing, what we need to do in terms of having the public hearing today and having time for you all to address the resolution. So cut to the chase, we're going to be recommending, or we are recommending Truist Bank, who truly gave us fixed rates when the proposal was submitted that are locked in, and there is no penalty if for some reason the county board, the Board of Ed, or the LGC didn't approve the financing. We don't expect that, but If something were to happen, there would be no penalty to not close the loan with Truist. So when you look at page 4, we focused on Truist, and on the left-hand side, you'll see the 15-year and the 20-year rates, a 2.99 for 15 years, a 3.23 for 20 years. Again, those are fixed for the life of the loan. They gave us some options on prepayment. We could prepay immediately, starting right after closing, with a 1% penalty, or we could select an option where it's not prepayable for the first half of the loan and it's callable without penalty thereafter. Ultimately, because there are some planned borrowings for the county in the next 12 months, let's call it, we talked through this with staff, and we're recommending that for the prepayment, we choose option A. It gives us the ability to prepay literally starting the day after we close, but maybe more relevantly, potentially next year when some of these other borrowings are done, if we find that we're in a more favorable interest rate environment, we could potentially prepay this loan and refund it for savings. I'm not suggesting we'll be there, but we would like to preserve the opportunity.
Yeah, that's wishful thinking.
Understand. We have to close by August 22nd. We shouldn't have any issue doing that. Truist Bank was very accommodating and in their real estate related requirements. They're not requiring title insurance, things of that nature that can be time consuming and costly. So a really very, very clean proposal from their perspective. On the right-hand side, we're showing you what the annual debt service is for that funding gap of $13.85 million. So we're not going to borrow that much. The 2.99 rate is good. That does not change if we reduce the borrowing amount. We've confirmed that with the bank. And just for a little perspective, on the $1,332,000, the year one payment, by reducing the amount of the borrowing, we're going to be closer to $760,000 that year. And on the final year, instead of $959,000, we'll be closer to $550,000. So it just gives you a little perspective. By borrowing less, the payments obviously are going to come down, and the total payback at the very bottom, rather than 17.3, we're just under 10 million. So the 13.85 million worked fine in the funding models that we work on with staff, and the 7.85 will work even better and preserve some capacity in that debt model for whatever the future may hold for school projects. But again, your approvals today are at the higher level. We're just going to come down to the exact amount we need once the confirmation of the additional $6 million from the state is made. The final slide, page 5, that I want to cover, there's an appendix. We're basically taking all of the county commissioner actions today, obviously the public hearing, selecting the bank, and the various resolutions. Those have been drafted by the county's bond attorneys, Womble, Bond, Dickinson, and reviewed in detail by your county attorneys. So today would be the only meeting on this for the county board. The school board would take their action on July 20th, essentially in layman's terms allowing the school to be used as collateral for the loan. We are completely on track for the local government commission meeting on August 2nd. Don't have any concerns at this point about being on that agenda, and assuming that they approve the loan, which again, we've had detailed conversations with them about both Fremont and the community college. They're very comfortable with the Fremont project. We shouldn't have any issue closing before the deadline of August 22nd. Any questions?
You made a comment that they don't require title insurance. Mr. Board, do we research the deed, or did they research it, or for any issues?
We did not do it when we got it from the Board of Education. We assumed that that attorney got title insurance on it when they bought it.
We need to check on that.
Check with Mr. Edwards.
Sir?
We'll check with Mr. Edwards, who did the closing for it.
Okay.
Is there any concern in regards to pledging a $38 million asset for an $8 million loan?
It's maybe not ideal, it's over collateralized, certainly, but in North Carolina, when you're borrowing for a project, the project you're funding has to serve as collateral. In other words, we couldn't find a lesser valued, lower valued, unrelated asset and use that instead. We have to be spending money on the asset that's being used as collateral.
Has there ever been a school foreclosed on?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, that's the key point.
That's the key point, and at the end of the day, the way these installments work is it's part of the County Board of Commissioners' budget. You all appropriate the debt service that on an annual basis, and wouldn't expect any issues going forward.
Let me make sure I'm understanding. You're saying North Carolina law
Well,
requires you to use the asset that you are spending the dollars on as the collateral.
Maybe I need to word that a slightly different way. You can only use a property for collateral that you're spending money on. Now, if you're funding two projects,
Right.
you don't have to pledge both projects. But you have to pledge one or the other.
Oh.
So you have to be spending money on whatever is being used as collateral.
My concern is that we are facing our next project, which is right around the corner, and that's going to be Rosewood. The interest rate climate at that point is not going to be as attractive as it is currently. Those rates are going to be higher. So undoubtedly, I would like to, if at all possible, to borrow as much of those dollars that we may need now rather than in the future. But we're not able to do that, basically, right?
Correct.
Because of?
Because of the local government commission, primarily, that's the issue. I mean, you could borrow for Rosewood and pledge Fremont. But before you will ever get to that point, the local government commission would say, what are you borrowing for?
Yeah.
Do you have bids and permits in hand? And for Rosemont, that the answer would be no. So they would say.
Well, and the reason for these questions is that what if that occurs, we have explored every option at this point that we could possibly borrow. Because someone may turn around and say, hey, wait a minute, why didn't you borrow more monies when you could borrow it below 3%? Now you're going to be paying, 4.5%. It's just the nature of the beast.
It's the nature of the beast, and it is a North Carolina-specific local government commission protocol, I guess I would call it.
Sure. Okay.
So basically, all the money that's coming from the grants and all, we can't adjust that any for us. It's got all go straight to Fremont.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there any additional steps that we or the school board or both have to take in regards to procuring that $30 million in grants, or have we already done that?
I believe, and Allison may be able to help me, that I know for the $24 million, that is a combination of an original 15.
Correct.
Plus a new 9, and I believe that DPI is treating those as a single grant.
Yes, that's right.
And we've completed all the paperwork on that.
Yes, sir.
But in the budget, I believe, if I'm correct, when I read it, it was supposed to be a needs-based grant for an additional $7 million. Am I correct?
$6 million.
$6 million, I'm sorry.
Right, and we will reach out to DPI because I believe what we'll need is some sort of, before we actually secure our borrowing amount, we'll want to make sure something, maybe an award letter from DPI saying for sure that this has been awarded, and is there any other paperwork required?
Well, I don't think it was actually an allocation in the budget. It was in the budget basically to have an additional grant, I believe.
I believe there were, call it a dozen, like Wayne County, local governments that's submitted for a needs-based grant didn't get all they originally wanted, and they've gone back and I think essentially filled all of those original quests. So for y'all, it's another 6, and for others, it's, so I would expect maybe they end up treating this all as one big grant for $30 million. But we between us and finance staff, I think we can confirm all of that with DPI and make sure there is, no glitch before we close this loan. But again, if we're even the least bit uncertain about that $6 million, the bank has allowed us, has said, you can borrow the 13.8 and you could turn around the next day and pay back 6. So we have a plan B if the process with DPI doesn't move as quickly as we would hope. But they're pretty attentive to this matter.
What's the time frame or no penalty on that?
Pardon?
What is the time frame on the no penalty on that?
There wouldn't be a penalty on that, what they call a one-time extraordinary payback.
But is there a time frame on it? Is it 2 weeks, 6 months, a year?
I don't think they put a timetable on it. I think
Because what you're recommending is the 1% penalty to pay back early. So,
but not for the purposes of paying back with grant money.
okay.
They're not going to charge a penalty if we're saying, hey, we got $6 million of grant money, we want to pay it back.
But there is a 1% prepayment otherwise.
Otherwise.
Okay. Okay, any more questions? Okay, we're still in a public hearing, and there was no one to speak, so I close the public hearing. And what is the wishes of the board?
I make a motion that we accept the resolution regarding an installment finance agreement to finance portion of the cost of the construction of Fremont Elementary.
Okay, great. We've got a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion?
How long, Mr. Chairman? Did we go 15 or 20?
That would be a 15-year.
Recommended 15.
Okay.
And staff, I think, is.
And so we're adding
And that
15 years.
years.
For a 15-year term. Okay, any other discussion on the motion?
And that's just for the school system, not Wayne Community College.
Yes.
That is
Just for
correct.
school.
Does not include Wayne Community
But we'll address the community colleges
at
when
that time.
when it comes up.
Yeah, LGC just will not allow us to borrow it at this point. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Okay.
I would like to thank Davenport for getting this turned around in such a tight time frame to get us on this schedule, because there's been a lot of moving parts to get it working, and are done very quickly and professionally.
And Mr. Crumpler, I couldn't agree with you more. I don't know of another financial firm that could have done what Davenport has done here in such a short period of time. I remember when, earlier on, I said, how long is it going to take us to get all this package together and go to LGC? And generally, these turn around in about a 3-month to a 4-month period of time. I said, we need it done in a month. They've done a tremendous job.
Yes, sir.
And I think the citizens of Wayne County are going to appreciate that when they see the interest rates over the coming months. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great job. All right. We are now down to item 3 under new business.
It's a motion to award a hazard mitigation grant program, HMGP 4285057R acquisition project. This is for the demolition and asbestos removal services of homes that were purchased through that grant program, and the award was awarded to AK Grading and Demolition. And we would need a vote on that, motion and a vote.
So basically, these are properties and homes that were flooded.
They were flooded houses that Harrison Associates purchased out for us on our behalf.
Right.
They received 4 proposals, and A&K Grading was the lowest proposal.
Right.
Lowest responsible bidder. So
What was the process, Mr. Chair? What was the process? Did we check the backgrounds of these particular companies?
Oh, yeah.
Because I know in the past, there's been some issues with some of them where they weren't in compliance with their business records, and also dumping concerns.
I'm assuming Mr. Harris, they followed federal guidelines on how that project is federally funded through FEMA. So whatever the FEMA guidelines for the background checks, they followed those to a T. A lot of times when you do have some of these projects and the lowest responsible bidder is from out of town, it's sometimes you get work that's not up to par, but this particular firm is a local firm and has a good track record and a good history of doing work in prior.
Well, I mean, I don't know in the past 3 years how they've been, but I know prior to that, there have been concerns. And that's what I want to make sure that, you know, that there's not any dumping where it shouldn't be dumped at, because I've experienced knowing some of that firsthand.
I can verify with them, but we don't have any of that experience with the AK grading. No.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Crumpler, this is just to go into contract with them, but this is property that has not been cleaned up yet.
Correct.
Okay, do you know about how many parcels that consist of?
Number of properties, it couldn't be many.
3.
Is it just 3? Yeah, 3 properties.
Is any of them on Hood Drive?
No, sir. The ones on Hood Drive were already bid out and are held by another contractor.
Has the project been completed?
I don't think those have been completed.
What kind of time frame do they have to get the projects completed?
I think August, they have to have them done by August. That's the end of the project period. I think it's the 22nd, if I'm not mistaken.
And when they're all cleaned up, the county gets ownership of the property?
Well, the county has ownership now. When the ownership was transferred from the flooded property owner, it was transferred directly to the county. The ones inside the city will be transferred. Eventually, we'll do one deed and transfer properties inside the city to the city.
Okay,
But it's in our ownership now.
the ones outside the city that will be solely the counties, that property can only be used for what?
Open space.
Open space, forestry, or is anything that says that it has to, if it's not in forestry, that it had to be kept mowed and cleaned, or
No, there's no requirement to mow it or clean
just
it.
open space then?
Yep.
Okay, but the county,
We mow some of it that's in certain areas, but there's no requirement of us to mow it.
but the county has to retain ownership of it?
Yes, sir.
And as far as Hood Drive, you're following up to make sure that they're completing that on the time schedule.
Mr. Harris will, yes, sir.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm looking for a motion to award the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program to AK Grading and Demolition.
So moved.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay.
We need to ask for any opposed.
Any opposed? Okay, is there anything further?
Nothing further.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
would like to mention, since we have representatives here from the college, and yet in the budget that was signed, the state budget that was signed, there was $1.95 million awarded to Wayne Community College for pad site and all for our truck driving school. Is that not correct?
Let me hear that again.
1.95 million going to the truck driving program at Wayne Community College, getting site. Derek, you might can explain it a little better than I can.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Great.
So the ask was made through Dr. Pfeiffer on a visit to several of the legislators, and it was a specific ask related to our truck driver training program, which we started several years ago. We've been operating out of a gravel lot, kind of a substandard situation just to make the training occur. And as I understand it, it is a $1.9 million.
1.95.
1.95 that will be utilized for the construction of a legitimate pad, if you will, asphalt pad that is sufficient to handle the trucks for a training program.
It's fantastic.
It is
Part of it probably will be concrete also.
Probably part of it will be concrete. We'll be working with the county to see how we can accommodate other county needs other than just truck driving, so potentially fire truck training or things like that. It's concrete's needed.
And where are you locating that?
That decision has not been made, but it would most likely, the target would be on the northern property, the undeveloped side of the property, so that it would best fit with the current stormwater accommodations. It would cost us more to put that on the southern end of campus because of additional stormwater requirements that we'd have to meet.
That's where the crops are now,
The north property is where the crops are now.
beside the Maxwell.
Yes, sir.
Behind the
Yeah.
Maxwell.
Part of the property wouldn't take it. I wouldn't.
It would not take it all, no, sir.
So are you going to encompass the part that's in the back already, or that's going to be an additional? Where the asphalt is behind the farmer's market back that way?
Well, the asphalt that is there is not sufficiently thick in design and application for what's recommended for heavy trucks to be on.
So I'm saying, is that where it's going, you think are they going to encompass that area as well?
It would probably start at the northern edge of our most northern parking lot that is adjacent to the farmer's market.
So you're
It's the
not gonna tear that
preliminary
up?
concept,
Yeah,
but
I got you.
there's really no real planning decisions that have been made. We just became aware that actually that 1.95 was just placed into a bill to go along with the budget just a couple of weeks ago. So very little preliminary planning discussions have taken place.
And just for everyone's information, the truck driving program, when they graduate, our rate, I understand, is 100%.
Absolutely, I'm sure.
100%
Higher.
higher, yeah.
We're very happy to say that we've been able to maintain cost of the program so that cost to the students is one of the least expensive to the students in the state. In some cases, close to half, because a lot of schools are operating those with a third-party truck driving training program, commercial party, or we're doing all of ours internally. We have had great success with the student completion, and the most recent course was the largest course that we've ever offered. So expanding the program is a great opportunity for more folks to get jobs in Wayne County and the surrounding area.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Hunter.
Mr. Parker, do you have anything for us to go into closed session on?
Yes, sir.
You do?
Yes, sir. It would be to consult with your attorneys to preserve attorney-client privilege and to talk about the acquisition of property.
Okay, I need a motion to go into closed session. All right, we got a motion to go into closed session. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Thank you so much. Thank you all for attending today. Hereby adjourned.